What's going on, everybody? This is your man, Dr. John C. Turner, aka the Professor JT, and we are here with another Doc Chat. I got Dr. Leslie Regalado and Dr. Elaine Saunders, and we are talking all things EDD today. I hope you're ready because we are going to bat today to talk about the greatness that is the doctorate of education. And so, without further ado, let me introduce the wonderful Dr. Leslie. You are on the Doc Chat. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, thanks so much, Dr. Turner. So my name is Leslie Regalado, and I'm in Dallas, Texas, and I'm so excited to be on the show. I just want to thank you all for being here and being a part of this. So a little bit about my background. I have an EDD from Liberty University. Really, this was a long journey for me, and I'm excited to share more. But yes, an EDD. I work in education. I work in corporate America. I'm one of those sort of blended professionals, but so proud of what I've done and all of the obstacles that I've had to overcome during this time. That this is part of the story. Thus, us doing this event tonight is to share the reality of what this looks like for us. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. They already chiming in for you, Dr. Leslie. They're already chiming in. We appreciate
I see you, Michael Coleman.
We appreciate you being on Doc Chat. And we have the wonderful Dr. Elaine Saunders. She is on the Doc Chat. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Turner, for this opportunity. Again, my name is Dr. Elaine Saunders. I have an EDD from Capella University. I was a totally online student. Currently work in education as well as having my own publishing company. So I guess like Dr. Leslie, I have that blended thing happening as well. Excited, first generation college grad, first female doctor in my family on both sides. So excited to be here and tell you about the journey. It wasn't easy, but definitely worth it.
That's excellent. Excellent. I'm telling you, they chiming in for you, doc. They chiming in for the doctors today on the Doc Chat. Let me tell y'all something. If you are here with us, if you are chiming in, let us know you're here. If you're in a doctorate program, let us know what doctorate program you're in. And if you are a doctorate graduate, let us know where you graduated from. Look, I got New York in here. I got Texas in here. Oh, it's going to get real tonight on the Doc Chat. We appreciate everybody chiming in. Look at this. Look at this. We got another Capella grad here. That's my friend, Dr. Wood. Woo! I appreciate you, Dr. Wood. And we got Dr. Tooks, who chimed in last week. We appreciate the first generations as well. Let me tell you something. Y'all are inspiration. So let's get to that inspiration. Let's talk about a little bit, Dr. Leslie, what got you interested in going to get your EDD?
Wow. So I had one of those epiphany kind of moments that led me to this. So I'm a Baylor University grad, proud Baylor Bear, loved my experience down in Waco. That was the genesis of all of this for me. But decided to go for a master's degree because I was interested in teaching at the higher ed level. And so I was pursuing a degree at Texas Women's University and actually earned a degree in Women's Studies and Diversity from TWU. And while I was a student there, I actually read an article. And on this article, it said that only 1% of doctoral holders in higher ed were Hispanic. And, that really spoke to me. I'm one of those people that, I've always used my ethnicity and background as something that I think is a positive thing in my life and part of my identity. It's not all that I am, right? But it's, of course, a big part of my lens and how I view the world. Yeah. But I thought about all the students, right, in the area. I mean, I'm in Dallas, Texas. Our feeder high school, or school district rather, is 77% Hispanic. And I thought, if they're only 1%, of the teachers look like these kids, how does that make them feel? And one thing I want to share, so in my background, so I have bachelor's, I have 2 master's degrees, one from Texas Women's, one from Alabama. And then I have 2 degrees from Liberty. I have an education specialist degree and a doctorate degree. Throughout all of that, right? That just sounds like this big laundry list. I have never had a Hispanic teacher. And I didn't have a Black teacher until I was in my second master's degree program at the University of Alabama. And when I think about that, it's just unbelievable. It's unfathomable. How do we expect to change, the narrative for Black and brown students if none of the teachers look like them? And that is certainly not to say that other kinds of teachers can't be impactful, but I am one of those people that I'm like, no, if they can't see it, they don't think it, they're not exposed to it. And so it was reading that article that made me think, I have to keep going. I have to do something. I have to be part of the difference, because it's one thing to talk about it, right? It's one thing to say, oh, this is terrible, and poor little, Hispanic kids in Dallas, Texas. But where are we at, right? And I think I've always said, for me, because of how I grew up in a very multicultural sort of environment, it's good for the white kids to see teachers like me. It's good for the Black kids to see teachers like me. And I'm very comfortable, in certain environments because of my friend group, how I was raised or whatever. But I really think that the reality is, it starts with me. Everything that I do and achieve starts with me, and it pours over to the students whose lives I touch. And that was really the genesis for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And we got other Liberty grads even chiming in. Dr. James, can't wait to have you on the show in a couple of weeks, Dr. James. Y'all already blessing folks all the way halfway across the world, South Africa out there. I'm telling you, this is some excellence right here. Dr. Sanders, what got you interested in going to get that EDD?
It's an interesting story to me because I was actually in my graduate program, working on my master's in organizational leadership. And I was excited about that because I was being a first generation with my master's degree. And then all of a sudden I had a professor who changed my life. This man is still my mentor to today. He has 8 college degrees. And on my final paper, he wrote, "Your writing is worthy of the doctorate level." And for me, that was impactful as a young, at the time, a Black woman. I grew up in Harlem. So the statistics that was against me was I was going to be on drugs, or I was going to be, an unwed mother. I was going to be all of these negative things. No one ever said, you may be a doctor. So to achieve the undergrad, I have my bachelor's from John Jay College in forensic psychology.
Okay.
And it was like, oh, okay, that's cool. But then going on to my master's degree 16 years later, when I thought, I was in a bad marriage, had 3 children. I'm a mom of a daughter with multiple disabilities. And at that moment, to have someone with 8 college degrees see something in me that I did not see in myself at that moment was huge. And sometimes all we need is someone to believe in us and to see what we don't see. And for me, that made a difference. It changed my life totally. So that's why I believe in having mentors. You need someone who can see further than you see for yourself.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Let me show y'all something real quick. The EDDs are chiming in. My friend, Dr. Young, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I'm telling you right now, people want to hear this talk. I'm trying to calm down because I'm seeing all these EDDs chiming in. Y'all are speaking up for the ones who are saying, this is my route. This is the route I want to go. And I appreciate y'all. Dr. Watson, I appreciate you chiming in. This is where it's at on the Doc Chat because we are inspiring the world. Now, let's go into our next part where we talk about you're in the program. You've gotten in the program. What did you start to see, Dr. Leslie, that was kind of eye-opening and that made you say, you know what, I can do this? Or that maybe even made you say, whoa, maybe I done took on a little too much right here.
Well, when I first got into the program, and we can, I guess, talk about this more in the show, but I actually completed my degree through a journey of 2 schools. And I'll talk about why I transferred schools later on. But what I saw was actually a continuum of what I had done in my master's program, right? You're doing the classes, it was, to me, it was just more of the same. And I really enjoyed that. I think where it began to become a little bit like, oh man, hold on a second, was, once you start really thinking about the dissertation and all that entails, it was exciting in some ways because I'm just an intellectually curious person anyway. I like to learn, and have so many different interests. And I was thinking, oh gosh, I could do this or this. There were all these things I wanted to talk about. But on the other side of that, it was really scary to think, I got to narrow this down to one thing. And then I got to have an advisor who really buys into what I'm doing, who's going to encourage me, who's going to be there for me, who's going to lift me up. And that was one of my biggest problems because I'll say this. So I attended one university. I did my entire curriculum, finished it, finished comps, went through started the dissertation, and my dissertation advisor disappeared. I was like, yo, this guy's not calling me back. Like, what's going on here? And he had, unbeknownst to me, he had gotten a job to move overseas at a university, which was a great opportunity for him. But he left. And then I got a different person. And then I got a different, literally, I had 3 different people in the matter of, 18 months. Yeah. And I was just failing miserably. And so that was something for me that I had to back up and say, look, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but, talking to people, my best friend who I met the very first day of college in 1989 in Waco, Texas at Baylor University, my best friend, Dr. Monique Nunn, she was also going through a program at the same time. And I talked to her about it. I talked to my husband about it. I talked to other people, and I just decided to stop. I stopped for a while. Switched gears, did something else, and then transferred and came back to it. So those were some obstacles that I faced.
I'm telling you, they loving the doc here. They loving the doc. I'm telling you right here. These are the stories we want to hear, because a lot of times it does get hard, and sometimes that pause is something needs to happen, but a lot of people don't come back from it. They don't come back from it. So Dr. Sanders, you're in the program, you're starting to get your feet wet. What are some of the shocking things that kind of happened, and some of the things that made you say, what's going on here? Like, what has happened?
I echo some of Dr. Leslie's experiences. I had 4 academic advisors, which was like, what? And then you have to submit all your paperwork again so someone could catch up on where you were. So that was very frustrating for me. Also, personally at the time, I'd gone through a divorce. My mom was sick. And so I had all of these things coming at me or on me at the same time. And we often hear the strong Black woman, and I was trying to be that. And then one day I had to press pause and was like, no, you need to take care of you while you're trying to take care of your children, or you're trying to take care of your mom. And so it was very challenging for me, because I knew my mom was transitioning, and I wanted to finish before. So at least, that was one accomplishment, because she was there for every accomplishment I had, and it didn't happen. And I was so disappointed. I was so upset that I wanted to quit. And I just remember, sitting there and saying, I felt like a failure to myself personally, because I didn't reach that goal before she transitioned. But then I also remembered, I'm her legacy, or I'm my parents' legacy, but, I'm her legacy. And if a high school graduate and a high school dropout can produce a doctor and have a legacy that lives beyond their lifespan, then I was okay. And plus I realized, you know what, you still gonna have to pay these people back, whether you get a degree or not. So you might as well get this piece of paper so that you can solidify paying these loans back.
That's the real talk right there. I'll tell you. Hey, this is the Doc Chat. Dr. Leslie, Dr. Elaine, I'm telling you, they dropping dimes like they Angel Reese out here. You know what I'm saying? Don't hate the player, hate the game. I'm telling you, they dropping them dimes. I am loving all of this right now. Now we about to get into the meat of this. That final project, that dissertation, that work that got you done. What did you do your topic on, Dr. Leslie? What did it take to get to that finish line?
So my dissertation topic was improving the graduation rates at a Hispanic serving community college in North Texas. One of the things that I care deeply about, and it's funny, it goes off to what we were just talking about, is completion, right? So I've taught at Dallas College for the last 13 years. We are a Hispanic serving institution. We're minority serving. So our majority population are brown and black students. Um, you know, teaching at Dallas College has been one of the greatest joys of my life. And I really found my purpose there with a group of great students and, just doing something that I love. I say all that to say, again, thinking of 77% Hispanic student population that matriculates from Dallas ISD. Why are we not graduating? Our graduation rates were like 19%, I believe, if I recall off the top of my head. It was really low. And to Dr. Sanders' point, it doesn't matter if you go and take some classes. If you put 1 ounce of effort in your time and 1 dime into it, if you don't get something out of it, that's a terrible investment, right? And so outside of education, I own a talent acquisition and a college and career coaching business. And that's something that I work with my coachees on. It's like, yo, we got to find a way. Like, maybe this isn't the right way, but let's shift gears or let's do something different. And so this 4th edition, right, from all these different advisors I've had, when I finally got to this edition of my dissertation, I was like, this is something we have to change, because not only does it benefit us as a college, it benefits the students who are completing the degrees. As someone who has worked in talent acquisition for 26 years, I mean, when I graduated from Baylor, I moved to Dallas. I, had a job with the company, and then boom, I started recruiting, and I've been doing it ever since. And I just detested seeing people apply for jobs, oh, I'm this and I'm that and blah, blah, blah. And they wouldn't get the job. They might have a good resume, but they didn't have a credential. And, their story would be like, but I have 90 hours of college credit. And I would say to them, but what you don't understand is in corporate America, if you're telling someone you have 90 hours of college credit and nothing to show for it, that's a problem. You're basically advertising you're a quitter, that you don't know how to find a way, that you can't set a goal and achieve it, or that achievement is not important to you, right? And that doesn't mean that there's not a place for people that go to college. Let me be clear about that, because I believe there is. But for people that want to do these things, whatever these things are, you can fill in those parentheses. You've got to have credentials. It's what balances out your experience. And so this was why this topic was so important to me. And I had a great opportunity to do interviews with current students, with past students who I had mentored and worked with. I met with the campus president. I met with some of the faculty and staff, and everyone was so supportive and gave real feedback. But I'm proud to say that, the students who my arms touch, they graduate. I will not allow a student that is in my care and that wants to do it not make it happen. It's just not going to happen over here. So
that's powerful. Absolutely powerful. Dr. Sanders, how did you get to that finish line? Tell us, please.
How did I? Well, I'll start. I got to the finish line because I had to believe failure was not an option.
Yeah.
And with that being said, my dissertation topic was the impact of academic advising on first-generation college students.
Okay.
At the time, I was a dean of a college, and there was not enough academic advising, but we were bringing in a lot of first-generation students who looked like me and were adult learners. And what I realized was they didn't know. You don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
And if you want to go to college, but no one's advising you or telling you, you could take a CLEP exam and you can do this, or you can write a PLA, a prior learning assessment, and you don't have to take this class and save money. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay.
So now I'm having conversations with people who they don't know. And I thought, what would I have wanted if it were me? And that's how I see education. When I encounter people, my mantra is, you will leave me better than when you first met me, because I'm going to give you everything that I know. There's no secrets, there's no tricks, because I believe every student matters. It does not, as long as you have the wherewithal. I tell people all the time, and I tell my current students, I still teach as an adjunct professor at the same college, as well as I have vocational students that I teach as well. I tell them, you can wait. I'd rather you waste my time than waste my money. Waste my money than waste my time, because time is non-refundable. And when we understand that we have, what are we going to do with the dash in between our lifespan? And my thought is, how many people can I affect? How many people can I help in this process? Because I didn't know what I didn't know, and I refuse to let someone else be ignorant in that matter, because representation matters, because they have the opportunity to feel more comfortable to say, I didn't know this, and thank you for telling me. And I'm transparent. Well, I didn't know that myself. So now I'm telling you something I didn't know. And now to see that college has academic advising, and it's something, so it wasn't just a project, it was something that was implemented. And even after me leaving as the dean, it's still there. So to me, that is, I see my work even after I left.
Dr. Sanders, I wanted to say something about that. It's interesting, again, thinking back to my own experience. So I've got, students at Dallas College that English is their second language, right? And we would have advisors who would not even suggest to my students, hey, are you even at least conversational in Spanish? Or, did you know you could pay $100 and take this test and you could basically knock out a full semester? And to me, that's about cultural competency. That's about compassion. That's about understanding what it's going to take to change the narrative. Just because someone doesn't speak English as their first language doesn't mean that they're less intelligent or could make less of an impact. And for me, as a Hispanic American, I think about that. I'm fortunate that I speak English, obviously, as my first language. I grew up here. I was born here. I have that American privilege. But I am one of those people that I care about my community. I care about these kids who want more, but they just don't know how. And something as simple as taking a CLEP test can change the entire trajectory of their college experience. And it saves a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm telling you, they're loving what y'all talking about right now. Just all into it. And I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody that's chiming in. This is the real talk that we want individuals to know and hear. And it's great to see and hear that all three of us actually worked in either that urban or community college, those areas of education where basically we are needed because we see so many students that look like us. And it's empowering to know that there are individuals that are saying, look, I know where you're at. I'm meeting you where you're at. I know where you're coming from. And to be able to even put that doctor title on there makes it even sweeter. It definitely does. Definitely does. So this is favorite part of the show. We show what that finish line looks like. And I'm telling you, these ladies looking good. They looking good when we show these great, great photos. So we start with the good doctor here. Dr. Leslie, you got to that finish line. You got to graduation, Liberty University. Tell me about that day. What was that day like?
Oh man, it was just the most rewarding day. I just get choked up even thinking about how much I had poured into how much of my life I gave to this. I actually graduated from Liberty during the pandemic, and so I did not get to, do some of the traditional things that normal doctoral students would do. However, I had a dissertation advisor who just loved me and championed me and just encouraged me. And I did my dissertation defense through Zoom. And so that was a unique thing. But actually, 6 months later, I got to go to Lynchburg to actually walk in the ceremony with my mother and my husband. And so man, I love those shoes. Those are some bad shoes.
You was wearing them. You was wearing them, Doc. I'm telling you. You got to do it big.
No, I'm just kidding. But it's so funny. I mean, like, it was such a good day. Like, just that feeling of wearing that, that hat, and just my husband being there, like I said, my mom, and it just meant so much to me for my mother to be there. I lost my dad when I was 25 years old. He saw me graduate from Baylor, but he didn't get to see everything else that I've done, and I know he would be really proud.
That's excellent. That's excellent. I'm telling you, y'all are inspiring. Inspiring. everybody on today. So, of course, we got to go to Dr. Wayne. We got to see what she did on that day. Let me get you pulled up here. All right. Your day. Tell us about your graduation day.
My graduation day was bittersweet. As I stated, my mom had transitioned. So, I saw the moms celebrating with or the daughters celebrating with their moms. And I was like, man, I really wish she was here to, embrace that moment with me. But I also was elated because I did something that hadn't been done before in my family. And then on top of that, to have my children just excited for me in the process, and hearing my daughter just scream, Mommy, I'm so proud of you. And we don't know the impact that we make for generations to come. And I just remember my daughter, who now is in college, saying to me when, in the time I was in school, Mom, when I graduate, do I have to get my master's degree? She didn't understand what that meant to me, because what it said was she understood that she was going beyond her bachelor's into her master's. So I had just changed the generation just based on one act, or sometimes it felt like this being the sacrificial lamb, in order to make something happen. So that day it was unforgettable for so many reasons, but I would not take it away for anything, because it made me the woman I am today.
That's powerful. Absolutely powerful. I'm telling you, y'all are inspirations. Y'all are inspiring the masses. This is what we want to see. These are the things we want to make sure people realize, that you can get there. This work is possible. And actually, I have a question, and it's kind of for you both because of the work you do, working in the urban settings and with those different types of students of color. And so, at your institutions, especially with your EDD doctorates, is it that worthwhile endeavor? Is it something that you feel like, as I look back, I'm glad I did this because it's helping me in my current work and in my current job? And kind of explain a little bit as well, Dr. Leslie, the work that you're doing now.
100% it's worth it. To me, my purpose is tied to my profession. And to be able to touch lives of people who otherwise would never see someone that looks like me or understands their culture, or that their differences are actually the things that are superpowers, it is important to me to be there. As a matter of fact, I kind of wrestle with it because, I'm excited. I actually recently got a job at the University of Alabama, my alma mater, and I'm going to be teaching at Alabama in the fall. Thank you. I'm really excited about that because I had such a wonderful experience at Alabama. I loved my program there. But I struggle because I'm thinking, am I moving away from community college? But somehow I'll probably always be involved in community college because I think that's where good work is done. The students that are there, they want to be there. They are looking for someone to show them the way to do something different. It's a way, I always say that community college is such an amazing way, not only to save money, but to earn a credential more quickly, right? You're mainly doing your core curriculum in those first 2 years of school anyway. So why not do it at a community college where you can take baby steps into it if you're not quite sure what you want to do yet. So absolutely, it's worth it. I definitely believe that it's important to think about what we've achieved and how that ripple effect affects other people. It may seem a little self-serving to say that, but I know that as part of my own life, it's part of my purpose as a human being, right? What can I do? How can I help other people? Who can I touch? And how can I change the narrative for brown and Black kids that look up to me, that say, I don't know what to do. I want to do something. Can you guide me? And they look to me for that. And there are people on this call today whose names I'm starting to see that they have been that for me. They've been those kids in that seat at Dallas College, or people that I've met, in different avenues of my life, who have been impacted exclusively by me and my decision to pursue my education and to work at community college. And so I'm extremely proud. And I would say we need you at community college. And so if you have the credentials and the time, it's a great way to make a little extra money. But more importantly than that, to do something that's purposeful and to impact people's lives for sure.
You all are impacting lives today. You're inspiring so many. And these are the conversations we are so glad that we're able to have here on the Doc Chat. Now, Dr. Sanders, let's talk about a little bit of the work that you're doing and how you're inspiring so many right now as being doctor in your current role.
Well, in my current, I have two roles. So I'm still an adjunct professor where I teach basically adults who are 40 and up. And I can just tell you recently, I had a young woman say when she walked into the classroom and she saw me, she said, yes, she was like, Black girl magic. And she also stated, you made me feel comfortable. Mm. And we have to realize that representation matters for, Black and brown girls or people in general. And I think also one of the things for me is just being down to earth, because education, as anyone knows, academia can be very snooty. Mm-hmm. And what we have to realize is we have to meet people where they are and then take them where they need to go. So if it's never big I, little you, it's the team approach for me. I just happen to lead this team. And my job is to motivate you and to push you to your next and push you. This is my saying, and I say it often, get ready for your next and your now. You start preparing now for your next. You don't wait until that opportunity comes. Again, representation matters, and realizing the difference. I will tell my students, whether it's in vocational education or higher education, is that do you want an education or do you want a degree? You want an education that will work to the degree, because a lot of people have a piece of paper, but they have no knowledge. You want the knowledge that when you sit at that table, that because you sit and represent other people, you speak from different experiences, one as a lived experience, but now also as an educator. So when you sit there, I sit as the people. So the people who cannot get in this room, I'm here to be in the room to represent you and to make sure when I leave that room, your voice was heard.
Yeah, I would say, we're not just a knowledge resource. It's not just that. We're a community resource. And so earning your doctorate allows you a seat at the table to be able to say, no, I am, a subject matter expert in my life or in my line of work, right? Or in this field, but also it's those relationships. It's amazing to me, the snooty, environment in some academic institutions, when in fact, I think the real benefit of attending college is about your life experience. I can say that, my life at 18 years old, when I was a freshman at Baylor University, while I am at my core the same person, there was so much I hadn't experienced, right? And I think that what education does is it provides you sort of a bubble, if you will. We always jokingly said the Baylor bubble, but a bubble to be there with other like-minded people who are looking for something, right? That want to grow together, that are looking for that exposure. Exposure is really the genesis of education, right? Exposing people to things, teaching them, because people need to learn to critically think. We all have different perspectives based on our lived experiences, as you said, Dr. Sanders, but that's really what education is to me. And as somebody, again, who works in talent acquisition, when I see somebody that comes out of school, they could be the smartest person in the room, but they still have a lot to learn. I don't believe that people can just transition from, college to making, big time impact in your career. You got to start somewhere, right? And it's this sort of blend, right? You have your education and then you have your experiences and you build on that as you go through your lifetime. And so for me, as a recruiter, right, I'm wearing my recruiter hat now. Those are things I look for. What are your goals academically or credentially, right? Not only what have you done, but these are all the things, like it's like a tripod. You have your credentials, you have your experience, you know, whatever, right? And so those are the things that I think are most important.
Yeah, yeah. So many people chiming in. Welcome once again to the Doc Chat. I'm telling you, these women are on fire today. Dr. Regalado, oh my goodness, Dr. Sanders. I am hyped right now. I'm trying to keep it together because I got more questions and we got time. So that's what I'm excited about. Okay, so I got to ask this question. I have a Capella University graduate. I have a Liberty University graduate. I'm going to hit y'all with something. Sometimes people feel some kind of way sometimes going those routes with those institutions. So I start with Dr. Leslie. Why Liberty University? And if you could tell somebody right now who might be between going different ways when it comes to getting their doctorate, why can you say Liberty University was the right choice for you and could be the right choice for somebody else?
My story is so interesting. You know, as I referenced earlier in our show, you know, when I actually started at a public institution here in the state of Texas. I took on campus classes. I was fully ingrained in what was going on, but my dissertation period was a disaster. I couldn't get the right advisor. I mean, it was just a mess. And actually, I left that institution. I decided to pause my doctoral journey. I actually switched gears, went to Alabama, got a second master's degree, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Alabama just, my husband and I actually, so I'll say this, my husband and I met later in life. We were in our late 30s when we met. We got married in our early 40s, and you know, we didn't have that college sweetheart thing going on, but we have similar sort of professional interests, and we decided to go to Alabama together. Number one, to get new credentials, but to also you know, move us forward. So I did the Alabama thing, got my master's degree there, and when I graduated from Alabama, I said, okay, I'm going to go back now. The reason that I went to Liberty University is because Liberty is an institution. Number one, it's a traditional college. For me, I wanted to go to a traditional college. So that was important to me. The second thing is they have a military family program. My husband is a Navy veteran. And so as a result of his service, I mean, I didn't even know Thomas when, you know, he was in the Navy, but that decision to join the military affects me to this day, you know, 25 years later after he did that. And so I received a tuition rate that could not be matched anywhere.
Okay.
I looked at other schools. Of course, originally I was like, I want to go back to Baylor, but I would have to wait to go into that program. I looked at SMU. I looked at University of Southern Mississippi. I looked at Alabama because I loved Alabama so much. I thought I'll stay, but it just didn't make sense because the program was longer and they weren't going to take all of my credits because, again, it had been like 8 years or something. So that was a long-winded answer to say Liberty offered the right thing at the right price. And I was at that place in my life where I'm like, you know what, God has opened this door for me and I'm just going to walk through it. The beautiful thing for me is when I went to Liberty, they did the 8-week classes instead of the full semester. So it gave me that wind in my sails, like I always say. You know, it gave me an opportunity to do something quick because I was really discouraged, to be honest. You know, my other school, I was just like over it. I was so discouraged. I thought, this is just terrible. And so the faster classes, I made really good grades. And actually, I was in school one semester and then one summer session, and I earned an education specialist degree. So they even worked with me to try to identify a path that I could receive a credential on my way to the doctoral degree, because I talked to my advisor about my experience and I was like, hey, I've been doing this for 8 years. This is not going well and I'm discouraged. What can I do? Is there something I can do? And so the education specialist degree came up. And for those of you who don't know what an education specialist degree is, in the field of education, there is a unique degree that is higher than a master's degree, but beneath a doctoral degree. Many people who love to learn and want to keep going do an education specialist degree because maybe they don't want to do a dissertation or whatever. But some people are able to earn an Ed.S degree on the way to a doctoral degree. And that actually happened for me. So it was a pleasant surprise. I was super encouraged. I loved my experience there. And I mean, I was just knocking those classes out, loved my dissertation advisor. And before I knew it, I was done. And that's my Liberty journey.
That's epic. That is epic. Dr. Sanders, Capella University. Why was that your route? And if you can encourage somebody else, why would that be a great route for them as well?
Okay, so I will tell you why it was my route. When I did my master's degree, my children were young, and I would have to leave to go to class, and I would see them in the morning, and then I would not see them until the next morning because I went to work. And my oldest daughter at the time, when I graduated, I said, I'm going back to school. And she said, okay, but can you not go away?
Wow.
And I said, you know what? She sacrificed for those 2 years. Let me find a way that I can still do what I need to do and still be present. And that's why I went to Capella University. As a result of going to Capella, I had a few friends who graduated from Capella. So they were my referral in getting and going there. It really just changed my life because I got to understand the threaded discussions and being online and being able to have my quiet moments of when my assignments were due. Because I had, like I said, I have 3 children and I have a daughter with multiple disabilities. So my time was just different than a lot of people. Still working full time. And like I said, my mom got sick. So I had a lot of things happening all at once. So that was the best route for me. And I will say this, after my mother transitioned, I did take a semester off because I was like going. And then I had a conversation with me. And I say that to say one day I had to look in the mirror and say, did you grieve?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I will add, I'm also a licensed minister. So guess who actually had to eulogize their mom? Me. So I was doing all of this and and I was just going. And I had to think about what they say on the airplane, if the air pressure drops, put your mask on first before you assist someone else. And I found myself just going. And I said, no, we're going to press pause, because if you're not good for yourself, you're not going to be good for your children. And I had to realize, you can do this, but you're not in a race. You're not in competition with anyone. And I say this to anyone listening. It's not a race. It's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
Understand your personal journey, and it doesn't look like everyone else's. And so many times we keep looking at other people. Learn to applaud those but stay in your lane, whatever that looks like. And when you can understand that, you celebrate your small wins, you celebrate your big wins. And if no one is there to celebrate, you just celebrate yourself. Because I had to learn in the hard places how to say, I'm not in a competition. I mean, because I'm one of those people, if I start something, I count out the time and I'm like, I have to be finished by this time. And when it didn't happen that way, I was beating myself up because I didn't finish. I missed the timeline. And I just remember having this epiphany or God moment, I'll call it. It says, how can you encourage other people if you always hit your marks? You don't know what it's like when someone has to stop midstream. And because of that, it gave me a greater appreciation. But I was also like, Lord, I could have learned a cheaper lesson. But that's another story. But with that being said, it was the best route for me, for my family, and for all that I was doing at that moment. And I'm thankful for my master's degree, because that program taught me the hybrid model. I graduated undergrad many years ago in 1990, I think 4 or whatever. And for me to go back to school, and they had this hybrid model, it taught me, because I didn't think I could do online. Because I was going back and forth hybrid, and the hybrid model, I said, I can do this. I can. And I knew it was something that I thought I was worthy of. And I think that should be one thing that anyone understands. Do it because you want to do it, not because someone else has done it, because then when you get frustrated, you need to have to talk with you.
Mm-hmm. And that's powerful. If anybody has any questions, just tuning in. Anybody wants to give a shout out to these great doctors, go ahead and do that here on the Doc Chat. We appreciate you. We got probably a few minutes left, and I really want to put this question out here because I got some fire on here. When you got fire, you got to go ahead and throw it out there because it's going to catch somebody else on fire. The question I have, Dr. Leslie, is if you could tell somebody right now looking to go for a doctorate degree, in the midst of a doctorate degree, and as a Latina woman that looks like you, what would you tell her in this moment?
I would just say, think about what you want to do with it, and look at yourself. Like, what is your situation? To Dr. Sanders' point, do you need to do it online? Do you want to go on campus? Is price an issue? I think about the different models of cohort versus, an independent sort of journey. As I said earlier, my best friend from Baylor, she was in her doctoral program at the same time I was, and she was in a cohort program, and she always talked about, that it's like you're this little group and you're all doing it together. So you have that built-in family and sort of, cheerleader thing. Whereas I think when you do it on your own, if you don't have that environment around you, it can be really difficult. So those are some of the things I would take into consideration. And the thing I would say is, again, think about where you go to school. You're going to be attached to that for the rest of your life, especially if you work in academia. So what does that say? I'm very proud of the institutions that I've attended. They've all just impacted my life in such unique ways. And, I think about Baylor, I think about Texas Women's University, Alabama, Liberty. Those are the 4 schools that I've attended. And each of them has been so special to me for what I needed in that time in my life. And so, just think about all those things, and think about the program. Think about what's it going to look like, how long is it going to take, how much it's going to cost, and who's there. Are there going to be people there that are going to support you? You need to interview them just like they're interviewing you when it comes to a doctoral program, because it's quite an investment in many ways. And so just really keeping all those things in mind.
All facts, all facts. And shout out to your husband, my frat, my Kappa brother. I appreciate y'all so much, and thank you for his service. Dr. Sanders, you're looking at a young Black woman. She done come to you by the grace of God, and you are the light that she needs right now to decide if she's going to go for that doctorate degree or not. What would you tell her, and what would you tell other young Black women about going for their doctorate degree?
What I would tell other young Black women is understand your purpose and ask yourself the why question. When you understand your why, whatever that may be, then it helps you keep a focus on why you're doing what you're doing. But to Dr. Leslie's point, I thought about this, and I say this often: find your tribe. Many times, even us being here, it's finding your tribe, someone who understands your language, someone who understands your journey. And many times what happens when you're in this scenario, you're by yourself talking to people who haven't gone where you're going and have no interest in going there. So you become frustrated because they don't understand you can't hang out like they can hang out because you have a 200, 300 page paper or dissertation that's due, and you're up late at night and no one understands. And I would tell them the reality. There was nights that I cried a bow tie underneath my chin because I was like, what am I doing? And you have to tell people the realness of it, of the moment. It's like I often say about social media. Everyone shows you saw the nice pictures of us when we graduated, but we didn't show you the pictures when we were up late at night and we wanted to throw everything. And so you have to understand that balance. And when you find your tribe and the people who can talk to you and feel like they can talk you off the ledge when you're like, I had enough, and they said, no, you still got more. It's still more in you. I think that means much. And as a result, and just to kind of go back to something that Dr. Leslie said, when you start to sit in the room, you realize your representation, but even that, you learn to create tables where even if you weren't invited to the table. And now, like, I'm also an author. I write books about these things to empower others because now I can speak from a different perspective than I have in the past. So I think I would tell them, you are a living example. Someone's counting on you to do what you do best. So go for it. And if you need, I'm here to support you. I mean what I say, and I say what I mean.
That's powerful.
Yeah, that whole tribe thing is so important. I mean, we were talking about this a little bit before the show, Dr. Turner, about if you're in a relationship, when you're going to school, and that's bachelor's, master's, doctoral, doesn't matter, right? You've got to have a partner that understands what you're doing and how important it is and what kind of sacrifices you're going to have to make. I think that was one thing for me that was, really, really important. My husband is actually a doctoral student now, and he's been with me. I actually met him. I had been in school, I think, 2 semesters when I met him, and so he's kind of seen the whole thing unfold, right? But when I was doing, assignments, or I was talking to classmates, or we had to get together for something, he didn't act up about it. He was like, do what you got to do. I also want to say, I had a couple of friends at the first institution that I attended when I was actually going on campus. My friend Kenny and my friend Sophie. These are some friends that I made during that time. And when things got tough, we would text, we would call, we would do things together. My best friend, again, while she wasn't at the same school, she was going through it we could talk about it. So just being in an environment where there are people that understand what you're trying to do, right? That is so important for anybody that's going to enter a journey of academia. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a doctoral degree. You've got to be with people that are going to champion you and cheerlead you and support you and believe what you're doing is important and give you that space to make it happen.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Jump to Dr. Sanders real quick. We got a couple more minutes, but I just wanted to ask this question as well. If you could talk to Elaine before you started the program right now, what would you tell her?
Girl, are you crazy? No. I would honestly tell her, you're stronger than you think you are. Mm-hmm. I would tell her, you are so awesome. You need to break out of your shell. And the reason I say that is because I shared with you guys, I'm an introvert. Most people don't believe that. And
I still don't.
And with that being said, it's always that shy approach. I mean, just internally, because I can sit in the room, and if I don't have anything to say, I'm not trying to just talk for the sake of talking. Yeah. But I would also say to her, your voice matters. So when you do speak, you speak to the issue. You speak purpose and power. And I had to understand that and own that. So that's what I would tell the younger version of me, or the Elaine who started beforehand, that you are so awesome and there's so much power, and God did not make a mistake when he made you. He placed you exactly where you needed to be placed for the people that you are here to reach. So you can do it, and go, girl. That would be it.
It's funny. I was just thinking when I was young, so we're Dr. Sanders, you and I are probably close to the same age, but I was one of those people that I always went to the record store on Tuesday, or I went to Sound Warehouse to buy my CD or my albums, because I liked, of course, music, but I also wanted to read the inside of the CD to see what the artist would say, like who impacted their life, who did certain things. And it's funny because when I wrote my dissertation, one of the things that at the end, I looked back, because of course I'd written my paper, but then you have to do, your dedication and all this. And I really stopped and I thought about what had brought me there. Like, why did I go through all of this?
Yeah.
There was 2 things I want to share with you. The first thing is, again, I was very fortunate. I grew up in a family where both of my parents were educators. They both had college degrees. My mom has a master's degree, but my parents were not together. And in the summers when I would go visit my dad, he lived in the Denver area, I would see my dad. I would go to school with him because he was a teacher and he taught summer school, and he taught, like middle school kids. My dad was one of just a handful of bilingual educators back in the day. And one of the reasons that his skill set was in such high demand is because he was bilingual, of course, educated Hispanic man. He was a college athlete. All these things, right, made him like a very marketable, candidate for a school district. But I can remember seeing my dad with these kids and the way they looked at him, teaching them English, teaching them the systems of American schools, and just thinking about those times with him, how that really, it affected how I saw my dad. My dad died shortly after I graduated from Baylor. And when I went to his funeral and I saw, like, there were so many kids there whose lives he had touched. That was one thing that I thought about. And it reminded me that I had an obligation to my community. Even though I am an entrepreneur, I own a business, and I've always worked in the business world, I really believe that my calling was to give back to my community, and I wanted to do it through education. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, the very first year that I taught school at Dallas College, I had a class of students. I taught a student success class. Again, this is a first generation sort of, here's how you do college, here's what it means. And there was something so special. I truly believe that God uniquely orchestrated my life so I could be in that class with those students on that day. I'm telling you, when I was standing in front of the class and I looked out at all those brown and black faces, and a couple of white faces too, right, that were looking at me and counting on me, in that moment, my entire life made sense. Everything I had been through, academic wise, professionally, even personally, my personal journey, it led me to that classroom. And I'm so grateful. And so when I wrote my dedication and my dissertation, it took me back to reading the inside of CDs and what people, what are they thinking about? Who are they thinking about?
Yeah.
And of course, I mentioned my mom and my grandmother and my husband and, all of the schools I attended. But, it's been a real blessing to share not only the success, but also the challenges of going through this journey. But in education in particular, right? Because tonight we're specifically talking about people that work in education and have a degree in education. This was my calling. It was what God uniquely ordained me for, and I'm so grateful.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm telling y'all, real tears, real laughs, everything, the real talk from Dr. Leslie, Dr. Elaine. You can find both of these great women on LinkedIn. Make sure you connect with them. As Dr. Elaine said, and I know Dr. Leslie feels the same, and I do too. If you need help, reach out. You're not in this by yourself. There are individuals who have done these doctorate journeys, and they want to help you get there. So we want to say good night to everyone. Thank you both so much for coming on. And until the next Doc Chat, peace out. Holla at you later.